see on the largest scale in our universe that the universe appears to be accelerating its expansion. And this is surprising because our theories thought that the universe would eventually slow down or even contract. And the fact that it's accelerating, it was a surprise. And so scientists have developed a theory which they call dark energy to explain this, and that there's some unknown energy in our universe that we have yet to understand its nature or its character. And so many theories have now emerged that might try to explain dark energy. So one of the conundrums or challenges is why don't we see the effects of dark energy on very small scales? We only see it on the very largest scale of the universe. And there are a set of theories that say, well, that's because normal matter screens the effect of dark energy on small scale. So the fact that our instrumentation is made out of material things, out of matter, that itself screens the effect, and so we can't see it. However, if we were to do measurements or tests with individual atoms, the atoms are so small that they wouldn't have this screening effect, and that you might see the effect. So we're doing what's called atom interferometry, which is that we're taking atoms at very cold temperatures and treating them like they were waves instead of particles, and doing experiments where we look at the wave nature of these atoms and see if they experience any unexpected forces, anything that we can't explain. So one of the things you have to do is you have to remove the effects of gravity, because gravity is a force. The Einstein elevator is a drop tower facility at Leibniz University in Hanover, Germany. And it's designed to simulate the environment of microgravity for a brief period of time, basically doing free fall experiments. So by doing it in the Einstein elevator, we're taking out gravity as a possible explanation for any kind of forces that might be experienced. So if we see something else, then that might be an explanation for dark energy. And so by doing these tests, we think we will get results quickly that might say that there is an explanation for dark energy, perhaps at a particular scale that we have yet to been able to observe, or maybe, the theories are all wrong and that we have to come up with a new set of explanations or a new way to test for dark energy.
The old mechanistic materialist view was that we should explain everything in terms of the smallest things. The atoms are the ultimate physical reality, and therefore reducing chemistry to atoms is the way chemistry should go. Reducing life to molecules is the way biology should go. Reduce it to the smallest things in living organisms, molecules. So it's a matter of reducing to the smallest, because smallest is best. And that's why molecular biology has an enormously high status within biology, because it's dealing with the smallest bits of living organisms, genes, proteins, etc. But what Whitehead pointed out is that atoms are not the ultimate particles. Atoms themselves are structures of activity with a nucleus and electron orbitals, and they're all processes. Atoms are processes, molecules are processes, and that molecules are like organisms. An atom is like a microscopic organism. A molecule is an organism composed of atoms which are whole, have a wholeness that goes beyond the sum of the parts. In the same way, in organisms, a cell is self-organizing. It has its own membrane, its own limits, its own structure and activity. But cells can be organized in tissues where there's a wholeness that's more than the sum of the parts. They're in organs, in organisms, in societies of organisms like flocks of birds or schools of fish, in ecosystems, in planets. And planets are within solar systems, which again have a wholeness that's more than the sum of the parts, and solar systems are within galaxies. So we have organisms at all levels of complexity, and you can't reduce them all to ultimate particles. And the bottom dropped out of the atom long ago, and attempt to explain everything in terms of the ultimate particle is no longer the way science works. I mean, it never really has worked that way. You don't try and explain the facts of sociology or the facts of physiology in terms of hadrons or electrons and so on. You explain them in terms of physiological processes. Science, in effect, although not in theory, is actually holistic. You study things at their own level. Well, if we take this view, then we see that this holistic view of nature suggests that self-organizing systems have a kind of mind or consciousness or an organizing capacity, their own purposes, their own goals, which in modern dynamics are called attractors. So if the sun is a conscious being, then what about the entire galaxy? That contains the solar systems within it are like cells within a body. The entire galaxy may have a galactic mind, and it may communicate with other galaxies. The sun may communicate with other stars. Primarily its consciousness is, I suppose, directed towards its body, the solar system, and the sun itself. But it's also got a peer group, other stars within the galaxy. And we know very little about galactic thoughts or galactic thought transference. It's unlikely, I think, if galaxies do communicate with each other, that they do it just by electromagnetic radiation, because some of them are 1,000 light years apart, which means it would take 1,000 years for a light impulse or electromagnetic impulses to go from one galaxy to another. And then another 1,000 years, well, hundreds of thousands, they're a billion years, some of them are a billion years apart. Take a billion years to send a message to a distant galaxy and another billion years to get a reply, even if it was by return of post. So 2 billion years is a long time. So if they do communicate, then I think there must be some kind of intergalactic telepathy. But obviously, this is getting into a realm of speculation that is way, way beyond anything we actually know. And then if all the galaxies have a kind of consciousness, then what about the entire universe? The entire universe may have a mind of the universe, which is exactly what Plato was suggesting in the Timaeus. The entire cosmos may have a mind. And how would its sensory system work? Well, there are some neuroscientists who think that the interface between the mind and the brain is not just electromagnetic fields acting as an interface, but they think that the electromagnetic fields in the brain actually are conscious, that is the basis of consciousness. John J. McFadden, for example, has proposed that that's the electromagnetic field theory of consciousness. And Todd Murphy, a Canadian neuroscientist, has proposed the magnetic field theory of consciousness, that these fields are the basis of consciousness. Well, if we take those theories seriously and apply them to the whole universe, the universe is pervaded by the gravitational field and the electromagnetic field. Therefore, a mind that could interact with that would know everything in the universe, because it would be the basis of where everything is and how everything, its activity. There'd be an instant method for omniscience throughout the universe. Then, I know I'm piling speculation on speculation, but I just want to deal with a further point, that if we say the whole universe is conscious, then are we saying that's the ultimate limit of consciousness? If we are, it's a form of pantheism, like Spinoza. But all traditional religions have said that the universe is alive and conscious in some way, but there's a consciousness that transcends even the universe, that there's a mind beyond the universe as well as the mind within the universe. Rather like our own minds are concerned with the welfare of our bodies and our social behavior and so on. But they can also transcend all our immediate concerns. We can think about, as we are doing now, the nature of the universe, the nature of other minds in the universe, things that have nothing to do with catching the tube home this evening or what we have for dinner, our immediate preoccupations. But with the fact that our minds can transcend totally the immediate concerns of our bodies and our social lives. And so the idea has always been there's a mind that goes beyond the universe.